Welcome and thank you for joining us this morning for Issues and Views, Buffalo, New York's weekly public affairs program focusing on topics and concerns that affect you and your community. We hope the information you hear today is beneficial to you. Now here's your Issues and Views host, Todd Anderson.
Good morning and welcome to Issues and Views. I'm your host, Todd Anderson. I have two guests today, Leslie Maloney. She's a two-time cancer survivor, and also Terry Borges, who is a key volunteer for the Ride for Roswell and the founder of the Empire State Ride. We are going to talk about both of those events today, which are part of the Roswell Park Comprehensive Cancer Center fundraiser to fight cancer and find a cure for cancer. Both of these events are very important. We're going to talk about the Ride for Roswell first with Leslie Maloney. She's a two-time cancer survivor. And then we'll get into talking about the Empire State Ride with Terry. And Terry will probably add some stuff about the Ride for Roswell as well. The Ride for Roswell is just a few days away, actually, and we're encouraging anyone who might be on the fence or is interested in raising money to fight cancer to register right away. Leslie, tell me how and why you're involved with the Ride for Roswell.
Well, this is actually my first year doing the ride. I'm really excited, and I haven't been able to do it the last 2 years. I've been fighting cervical cancer, and I was diagnosed on Christmas Eve in 2015 and went through both internal and external radiation and chemo, and then I beat it. And it came back. Great. Thanks. But it came back just a few months later. And then I did some heavy doses of chemo and had surgery last June. And I just celebrated my 1 year cancer-free anniversary.
Great. So you beat it again.
I did.
Roswell is great in that respect.
They are. So I'm really, really excited. I mean, this ride means a ton. Roswell has done so much for me. I mean, they've saved my life. So I'm really excited to ride this year.
Now, I understand there are a few different routes for advanced riders and people who are just beginners.
Yeah, there's 11 routes in total, and the distance starts down at 3. So we have a lot of trikes on the 3 mile route, actually. So that's the beginners. You got to hook them early, and then the longest route goes up to 102 miles. We also have a beautiful route through Canada. So you can start off down at Roswell Park and cross over into Canada and end at UB. That's a 45 mile-ish route. Well, and then we also have a shorter one that goes to Canada. So if you don't want to do 45, but you still want to see Canada, you can do a 26 mile route, Canadian route.
Now you mentioned trikes. That implies little kids?
Yeah, so 3 miles isn't really that far. So there's a really safe, fun family route. It's 3 miles. Again, starts at UB North Campus and ends right there. It's a short 3 mile route, and that's really awesome to see families out with their young children doing that route.
Now, what time does the ride start?
The earliest route goes out at 5:30 a.m., and then I think the latest route goes out at 10:30. 11:30 a.m. is the late route. So 5:30 a.m. for the early 102 mile riders, and then the last ride, the 3 mile, will go out at 11:30.
Now, we talked about younger kids. You have to be accompanied by a parent at a certain age, right? Up to a certain age?
Yes, that's correct. So it's, I think it's 14 and 16 and under need to be accompanied by a parent.
Okay.
The fundraising limit is actually lower for children as well. So if you're 17 and under, the minimum fundraising is $50.
Okay. All right.
But again, the under 16 need to be accompanied by a parent.
Now, in terms of fundraising, do you have some ideas for people in terms of how they can raise funds?
Yeah, the tools that Roswell provides for fundraising make it really simple. When you sign up, you get your own personal fundraising page.
Really?
So you put your picture on there, put your family picture, whatever you want, and you personalize your story, and then you have a link that's associated with that. So that link can go into an email. Like you send an email to people you know and say, click here to donate to me. And when people are fundraising with email, we recommend that you send an email at least 3 times. The first email kind of like wakes people up and says, hey, that's cool, they're doing the Ride for Roswell. And the second one reminds them like, oh yeah, I need to donate. And then the third one, they're really actually thankful that you sent that third email because they forgot. And so three emails, that works great. But there's also a fundraising app with Facebook, which is brand new this year. So you can connect that, and it really looks like a professional fundraising app on your Facebook page, and you just kind of tell your story, and people can click right there on Facebook and donate right from there. So that really makes it nice too.
So how do you get that app?
Really, once you sign up, it's right on your profile page. So there's directions on how to connect it.
Oh, okay, cool. So these donations, tell me what type of research the funding goes towards.
Yeah, so a large part of the funds go to unrestricted funding, okay? And another large portion goes to clinical trials. My favorite area is the unrestricted funding.
What is that?
What it is it allows the board that decides where the funds need to go to the most promising ideas that might exist for research. So these ideas really wouldn't come into existence. They're like, think of a seed being planted, right? So it's seed money, and the seed, someone says, hey, I think I have an idea that's viable and it has promise. Well, they need a little bit of funding to prove that out.
Right.
And if with this seed funding, they can get it and grow it to the point where, yeah, hey, look at the data we have so far. If we have additional funding, we can really turn this into a reality. But that would not happen without the seed money from the Ride for Roswell.
Now, how many researchers are there? Are there any, just a few, or a vast number?
I am not quite sure how many total researchers there are at Roswell, but I can tell you that since I've been involved with the ride back from 1999 was when I first got involved, and I have met so many of the researchers there. And one of the things that keeps me going and has kept me going for this long is because I've witnessed the progress that has been made all of this time.
Right.
We had a gentleman when I first started that was at my work location, and he had leukemia. He needed a bone marrow transplant, and it was really a big ordeal that he went through for weeks and weeks and weeks. Now his type of disease that he had can be cured with a pill.
Really?
So it's changed so much. From 1999, it's changed a lot, and now the rate of change is just crazy. But these funds are really essential to keep that momentum going.
Right. Yeah, it's very important to donate. If you're interested in doing that, definitely go to the Roswell website and set yourself up to donate. Leslie, I want to ask you again. You're riding in which route are you doing?
I'm doing the 20-mile river route, so it's right along the river.
Sounds scenic.
Yeah, it sounds nice. I'm pretty excited. I don't know. All I've heard is positive things about the ride. I'm so excited to actually be a part of it this year, and to see and to ride with a group of people that are riding for such purpose and really doing what we can to help Roswell.
Now, I understand there's a finish line party at the end.
Yes. It's.
I've heard about this.
Let me tell you, Todd, when you come across the finish line at UB North Campus, it is so emotional, and people are cheering you on. You feel like a hero, and you are. Actually, you've accomplished a great thing that day. And to come across that finish line and seeing names of survivors being written down on the pavement as you're riding in, people cheering, and there's music, food, and just it's so incredible when you come into the end and you see 8,000-ish people.
Really? That many people?
Yes. And to see that common reason why they're there, there's nothing more powerful to me than to see people join together for a common cause on one day, and you can just feel the connection that we all have, in this thing that we're fighting.
Now, what if someone wants to ride but they don't have a bike?
We actually have opportunities for to rent bikes through vendors. So that information is on the Ride for Roswell website at rideforroswell.org, and you can go right on there under the information for renting a bike. And so you can't rent one the day of the ride. You have to do that a little bit in advance, though.
Now, I think the registration deadline has somewhat officially passed, but if you haven't registered, you can show up that day?
Yeah, we do take walk-ins, and we allow registration right up to the event. We would really like people to register as soon as they can, because that's important, because there's routes that are filling up. We actually already have, I think, 2 or 3 routes that are closed. They're full. So
right.
If you want to get in on this, hurry, because the routes might fill up.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to, if you show up the day of, it's kind of hard to raise any money, right? How do you raise money if you just show up the day of?
Yeah, in that case, people might just write a check. The minimum fundraising is $200 for adults, and again, $50 for children 17 and under. So a lot of people will just go up and write a check, which many people make donations of that size and larger. So it's a donation to a really great cause and a really, really amazing time. This ride has changed my life for sure.
Now, to register now, if someone wanted to register today, they just go to the website?
Correct, rideforroswell.org, and just click register.
Okay, cool. Now, I understand, Terry, that you have created a separate event called the Empire State Ride.
Yes.
And tell me more about that.
Yeah, the Empire State Ride is a 7-day, 540-plus mile journey.
Really?
Yeah, from Staten Island to Niagara Falls.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really awesome experience. We'll have just north of about 140 people doing it this year. Mm-hmm. And again, we start off on Staten Island. We follow the Hudson River, which is absolutely gorgeous. We're on secondary roads along the Hudson and up to Albany. We have a special stop this year in Albany where for some riders, that's the end of the route, and you can see the Capitol and do some touristy things in Albany. But then we hang a left at Albany, and we follow kind of paralleling the canal, but not on the canal, all the way to Niagara Falls. We really come close to every major city in New York State. Wow,
that sounds amazing. Now, you say we. Are you doing that ride?
I am, yes. This will be my 5th year. I went the first year by myself to kind of prove the concept out. Mm-hmm. I did have a few awesome people meet me on the last day, though, to help me they met me in Rochester.
To help you off the bike?
Yeah. And really they helped me a lot on that last day from Rochester. So, it's growing from there. We went from 1 to 10 to 60 to a little over 100, and this year will be 140 plus. So it's growing nicely, and really what's helped it grow is the people that do it. Once people do it, they kind of want to own a part of it, and they take ownership, and they bring friends the next year. They support with getting the word out in their communities where they live. We actually have people from 15 states participating this year, including the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. So it's really becoming a national destination event, which was the goal.
So is there a set number of miles you ride daily, or you're just free to do whatever you want?
No, we have a very well planned out route, and it's about 80 miles a day. Mm-hmm. And we have rest stops at 25, 50, and 75% of each day. So people fall into their natural riding speed. So everyone starts about the same time in the morning, and then you'll have different groups forming. Some people will ride 20 miles an hour, some people will ride between 16 and 17, and some people will ride around 12 to 14 miles per hour. So that's one thing that's really neat about it, is you just kind of fall into those natural groups. No one gets left behind. We have amazing truck support, mechanic support, food support. You just need to worry about your bike and your body.
Where do people sleep?
We actually have tent camping is the preferred place to sleep. So when you show up where we're going to be for the night, your tent is set up with your air mattress. It's provided for you.
Okay, cool.
And a chair, towel, water. So you just show up, plop down, grab some clothes and go shower, come and have dinner. And everything's taken care of for you. It's really a kind of a high-end biking experience.
Now, is food supplied, or you have to come up with your own food?
Yes, food is supplied. We have a caterer that follows us, and the catering company is amazing. The food is really geared for endurance events like this.
Okay.
Breakfast, I've never seen so much food laid out at a breakfast buffet, and they really have meals for everybody. If people have special dietary restrictions, they take that into account. The caterer provides food at the rest stops, and the dinners, Todd, oh my gosh. I would just if I could eat out for 7 days and have this food, I would pay, what it costs just to have these dinners.
How do you ride?
Gorgeous.
How do you ride after that? Because it sounds like the food is pretty phenomenal.
Well, you know what? It's actually, the food is made for the event, really, from the endurance standpoint. You need to consume about 5,000 calories a day minimum when you're doing this type of event. So that's all taken into consideration. And we actually have a little bit of coaching when people show up about eating.
Really?
And how do you eat for an event like this to make sure that you're fueled as your body needs to be fueled as you go on this venture.
So what types of foods?
Well, I'm just thinking about dinners. For proteins, we'll have steaks, we'll have fish, salmon, white fish, chicken, tofu products. So just about all the popular protein products will be included. But the way in which they make them, we'll have Mexican style, American style, Oriental foods. It's this caterer is
Who's the
absolutely
caterer?
Amazing. It's a caterer called I think it's Three Trees Catering, and they're actually from down south. I think it might be Virginia. They're really awesome.
Wow, sounds like it's worth it just for the food.
It is. It is.
So if somebody wants to participate, is there do you have to train for this? Obviously you do.
Yeah, training is very important, especially to literally get your butt conditions. Your rear end needs to be kind of used to spending that many hours in the saddle. So at this stage of we're 40-something days out right now. The event starts on July 29th. And so there is a recommended training plan that we have on our website. But right now, people should generally be comfortable doing about 100 miles a week.
What's the website?
The website is empirestatewide.com.
Okay.
Yep.
And so you have training right on, is it video training?
No, there's there's a document on there that talks about training plan. There's a lot of blog material and FAQs on training. We actually are really blessed to have a professional cycling coach that has been doing the event with us for 3 years now. This will be his third year. His name is Charlie, and he works for Carmichael Training Systems. Charlie lives in Colorado. But we also have some really great Facebook live recordings that are available on Facebook, on the Empire State Ride Facebook, where we've interviewed Charlie about techniques for how to make hills easy, how to eat, and what you should do from a training standpoint. So, if you're going to do the Empire State Ride this year, or you're getting ready to do it for next year and put it on your bucket list, I highly recommend going to the Empire State Ride Facebook page and check out the Charlie Livermore interviews that we've done. He's been an amazing asset for the ride.
Now, for the Ride for Roswell, you can rent a bike. Is that the case with this ride?
Actually, you can rent a bike for the Empire State Ride. Again, on the Empire State Ride website, that information is on the website about where to rent the bikes. Obviously, you're going to want a decent bike for training. But one year, I actually considered renting a bike because I wanted to get a new bike. And I thought I wasn't real happy with the bike I had. And I considered renting a bike that I wanted and take it on that week-long ride to see how well I liked it. I ended up buying the bike anyway before I rented it. But
bikes are pretty expensive these days, aren't they?
Yeah, they can be. They can be expensive. But there's quite a range, right? And there's really high-end bikes, and they're really geared, no pun intended, for riders that are really, really into it. They might be racing, right? So if you're kind of a casual rider, you can get a decently priced bike. You don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars to do something like this for sure. Right.
You said the seat is a pretty important aspect of that whole ride and the bike experience. I guess you'd have to get a pretty comfortable seat.
Yes, and looks can be deceiving about what's comfortable when it comes to a bike seat. So, a lot of people think like, oh, I need a cushy seat.
Right,
well,
right.
in actuality, sometimes those really hard, almost plastic seats, they look plastic, are end up being comfortable, because what's important about longer distance bike riding is that your sit bones, the bones in your bum that you sit on, those need to be in contact with the seat surface.
Well, thanks, Terry. I also have another guest with us today, Justine Jopp. She is a key volunteer with the Ride for Roswell. Justine, tell us what your experience has been with the ride.
In your private areas,
thanks.
right?
So I've been with the ride for 2 decades. This is my 20th year with the event.
Let the rest go where it wants.
It first started out many moons ago with a friend of mine that I had worked with, had been a chairperson with the Ride for Roswell. And he noticed I was pretty detail oriented, and he asked me if I would do him a favor and act as the sweep person for the 62-mile route. I thought, absolutely. And he chucklingly said, don't say yes until you know what you're getting into. Well, the first year, all I had to do was really just trace the last riders. And after, I thought, oh, I am going to own this. And throughout the years, I've had different various positions with the event. I've coordinated some of the events. I've worked on all of the routes. I've done communications and net control and worked with fire, police, route guides, mostly from the back end of things.
Wow.
This year, I am chalking the names on Carlton Street for the Peloton riders. Those are 225 of our top fundraisers that ride from Roswell Park through the city streets of Buffalo and Amherst into the Celebration of Hope Friday night. And Saturday morning, while I'm not riding any particular route this year, I'm going to be managing the Canada route.
Wow.
I'm happy to be with the event. It's something that's very near and dear to my heart. Roswell Park is right in our backyard, so I'm happy to help it in its 23rd year.
So you mentioned the Peloton riders and the fundraising, so you must know quite a bit about the fundraising and where the money goes. Oh,
absolutely. For 4 notable areas that our fundraising dollars go towards are immunotherapy as the first one. It has both federal funding and donor dollars to provide seed money. It's an undertaking right now for phase 1 clinical trials using CAR T cells, and that fights a variety of aggressive cancers. Another area to pitch the funding towards is personalized medicine. Alliance funding has made it possible to cover the cost of about 600 tumor biopsies. It seeks genetic mutations, which are then often treatable with over-the-counter drugs.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Another area, I would say the third area, funding for clinical trials. There's over 200 available right now that Roswell is working on. And one of the other ones are funding for international collaborations. Roswell Park is working with 18 of those underway right now, including with Cuba for lung cancer vaccine called Simovax. I know that had made the news, and it was rather groundbreaking. It was a funny story on how Candace actually wound up with Governor Cuomo in Cuba, and we are the only facility in the country that's offering this groundbreaking treatment.
So in terms of fundraising, obviously the funds are raised through donations. So how can someone donate? And I also want you to talk about virtual riders. But first of all, how can someone just donate if they wanted to go to the website and donate? What's the web address?
Absolutely. They can donate by going to the web address of rideforroswell.org, and they can pick up their favorite rider. You can search for a rider. You can search for a team.
We've already established that people are going to sponsor Leslie. So anyone who's listening, go to the website and sponsor Leslie, unless you know someone who's riding, which people probably do know someone who's riding. There's a ton of people riding in this Ride for Roswell. So just sponsor someone, donate. And if you want to become a virtual rider, explain that.
Absolutely. A virtual rider is somebody who can't ride the bike that day. Maybe an obligation precluded them from attending. They're out of town. There's graduations. There's weddings. All a virtual rider has to do is register on the ride website, rideforroswell.org. They're entitled to all of the swag that comes with being a rider, and they, in essence, become fundraisers themselves because every dollar counts. For every dollar that we raise, that's $13 in seed money. And
Right.
for instance, some of that seed money, again, goes to OmniSeq. That's a diagnostic test that was developed by Roswell Park researchers. And it sequences genes of a patient's tumor biopsy looking for mutations. Once a doctor finds a genetic mutation, they can tailor treat it to that patient's tumor. It's actually pretty cool. You don't even have to ride a bike. You can be that virtual rider and raise money for Roswell.
Right. And just, do you have any tips for fundraising?
Myself, to become an Extra Mile Club member, I've actually taken all of the bottles from work. I work for one of the largest automotive groups here in Western New York.
Okay.
And we offer our clients or our customers something to drink. Well, rather than recycle those, I take those bottles back. And I've raised over $71.
Wow.
Just a nickel at a time. That's one way.
Are you talking about West Her?
Yes, I
Okay.
am.
All
Western Automotive Group.
Okay. All right.
And aside from that, I know people throw their own events. They've had bowl-a-thons. They cut their hair bald for bucks. They do brownies. They have had bake-offs. They do lemonade stands. But it really starts simply just asking somebody to donate to them. I ask everybody. I ask my hairdresser. I asked you.
And social media can help, right?
Oh, it certainly does. Start up a Facebook page. As a matter of fact, Ride for Roswell has an app. Of course, there's an app for that where you can fundraise. And
Wow.
you click on it and the money goes immediately to your page. There's been a Beers and Gears kind of gig where a local establishment has opened up their bar for us. There's a cover fee of, say, like $20. $10 goes towards a couple of drink tickets, and
Wow.
$10 goes right for my ride page.
Now, Justine, you've been a volunteer for 2 decades, and you mentioned that you're something about it, that you're going to chalk the names of the Peloton riders.
Yeah, absolutely.
What is that? What's that all about?
You know what? It's actually pretty moving. I do it by myself. When I first started out with it over a decade ago, Mitch Flynn, our founder, actually painted the logo of the ride on the street. And I laid a grid and wrote the names down of all the Peloton riders. The following year, I did it by myself, and I've been doing it by myself ever since. It's really emotional for me because I read all of the stories of this. Every rider has got a story. They're riding for somebody. They're riding for their loved one that they're supporting, that are going through treatments at Roswell, or they're riding in memory of somebody. What's more emotional for me, though, is to read of the 225 names, how many cancer survivors are actually riding in the Peloton. Right. Last year, we had 225 riders, 37 of them were cancer survivors. Wow. It's a highly emotional day when we turn around and look up at the hospital and see the patients in the window watching us to help somebody get through the Peloton that didn't think they could do it. At the end of it, when they ride into the celebration of hope and they're thrilled that they made it 12 miles an hour on a bike for 12 miles, it's cause for celebration. The day itself is cause for celebration. There's a lot of love.
Now, are you literally chalking the names? Where?
Something very similar. They have what's called, instead of spray paint, it's spray chalk. And I do. I stand and I make sure, number one, that I've spelled everybody's name correctly. And number two, that I haven't forgotten any of our Peloton riders.
Wow, that's great. That's great. Well, Justine, thanks for coming today. And in closing, if you can just go over where people can go to register or donate or ride.
Thank you. Sure. Absolutely. If they haven't caught on already, the Ride for Roswell, go to rideforroswell.org. Register yourself, register for the team, register to fundraise. Be there for Friday, the Celebration of Hope, on June 22nd, or Saturday, June 23rd, for the actual Ride for Roswell.
Terry and Leslie and Justine, thank you for coming, and thank you for that information.
Thank you.
The views, opinions, and comments expressed on the program are those of the participants and not necessarily of this station.